Okay, I'm going to call the meeting to order at 7 o'clock. Please stand and say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Is there any public comment at this time? There being none, proceed. Verification of posting of the agenda.
Pam Moore, for the record, the agenda was posted on January 12th between the hours of 11 a.m. and 1 p.m. at the locations listed on the agenda in accordance with statutes.
Thanks, Pam. And thanks for doing the minutes. Or the agenda for me. Consideration possible agenda approval of the agenda as submitted or revised. I have a motion to accept the agenda for this meeting.
I'll make a motion to accept the agenda for this meeting.
I'll second the motion.
And we have a motion to accept and a second to approve the agenda as submitted. Any comments? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passed. Consideration and possible action approval of minutes of the meeting held on November 1st, 2023. Do I have a motion to accept the minutes as written and a second?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? Call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed. Okay, first thing on the agenda to discuss is consider and possible action, review of correspondence from the Wildlife Commissioner's letter to Chair Board of County Commissioners requesting encouragement of participation in their meetings by the County Advisory Board of Management Wildlife members.
Oh, thank you.
How do you get that back up again?
Click the little arrow on 7. It's 7A. Click the arrow and then click that letter.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I think we should probably make an effort to attend some of these.
No. I agree, we are not the only county that doesn't participate.
Right.
I mean, there's some that never missed a meeting in 15 years.
But like you said, if we don't attend, they're not going to listen to us, so. I don't see a big issue. I can probably attend the one in Reno on May 3rd and 4th. Yeah, I don't have anything.
And
on
we
those
can
days.
reimburse you for your
That's fine.
your mileage too on that, and you can stay if you want. We'll reimburse you for your room, board,
You get full per diem.
yeah.
I think it's important that I feel like we've probably,
Well, they can't really expect us to make the Elk or Las Vegas ones, right?
what? To pay for your travel.
Yeah.
It's in
Yeah,
our budget.
you can travel. There's about $5,000 in our budget
Oh,
with the
yes.
county.
You get plane, go to
Yeah.
Vegas,
Yeah,
They'll
if
pay
you
for
want
the
to
flight then.
attend.
rent a
think
car, anything you want.
But like Jim says, you know, we can go up and be there, but they don't listen to us anyway for the most part, unfortunately.
I mean, I can commit to, I could probably attend at least 2 of these.
Okay.
Whether it's the May 3rd and 4th in Reno and the June 28th, 29th in Lovelock.
Well, I think we should make an effort to get to those primary season setting.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm imagining we don't need to take action on that, right?
No, I don't think so, just that it's for information only and to make us aware of the fact that we haven't been going to them and we should.
Consider my hand officially slapped. Got it. In writing.
Okay, next item on the agenda is consideration and possible action, Commission Policy 24, hunting opportunities among various weapons and hunter groups.
Okay, again.
Third
how do we
reading.
Get to it. I click.
Click that arrow.
I did.
Click that arrow. There you go. Now click on Commission Policy
Oh, I
24.
clicked on it about 4 times.
There you go.
All right.
Sometimes you have to collapse it and then reopen it.
7A?
No, we're on
No, not
8A.
7A, 8A. Let me see.
Yeah, I'm on it now over
Oh,
here.
yeah.
So it looks like to me like the biggest thing they're proposing is moose hunting in Nevada.
Yep.
Well,
And then a lot of verbiage adding moose to the regulations and
they're
finding
going,
moose and,
they're going to a fixed allocation instead of a demand success in allocating tags between the primitive groups and the any weapon, the way I read it.
So they just,
They've also, which leads, I think, according to more tags for like archery and muzzleloader, because the demand is there, but success,
correct. So your demand is gonna be a fixed demand. Before, different biologists would do, sometimes increase their demand, just to kinda throw a few extra tags into what different weapon groups and that, and so it was kinda all over the place. The fixed demand in some places for the archery hunt, and then the success being so low. A lot of things were always kind of modified, because the success in some of the archery would be so low, and it would generate, in some units, it would generate lots and lots of archery tags, but we didn't really have the appetite to have that many archery tags in some of those units, so they're trying to just keep a fixed demand straight across instead of kind of monkeying with it every year on the demand success formula. So that will, it will reduce some tags definitely in the rifle, and then it kind of sprinkles the tags in between muzzleloader and archery.
is that for moose specifically, or that's what they're adjusting for everything?
no.
That's gonna be for everything. It's gonna be fixed with the deer, I mean, mainly
You know,
The deer.
there's not gonna be archery moose and
no.
black powder moose. Another thing I noticed in there is to do with the junior tags. It's, they're
Yeah,
back
there's-
to applying, they can apply for 5 years and they can get a tag for 5 years. Where they dropped the 3-year,
We just discussed that at the last meeting, the same thing, because they only had that
well,
in
it's
place
in
for 2
this
years.
policy.
Right. This is, yeah, I remember discussing that last time, because done it for 2 or 3 years and then changed it back.
It looks like going to a fixed allocation is fairly substantial.
Where's the data on that? I can't find that at all.
So
All I see is
the
moose.
fixed allocation on the junior hunt.
Yeah, let me find it again. It's in policy 24. At least in the support data I've received.
Do you see it? Yeah, all I see is moose.
Rams, moose.
Jason, when you say there's a fixed demand for the tags, is that something that will be adjusted 5 years, 10 years, or is it just, that's just gonna be the fixed number?
Letter for,
No, they sent out a,
and I don't know.
they sent it out to us kind of just looking at like last year's quotas and what it, kind of what it did as far as you had, you know, last year maybe you had 150 rifle tags and, you know, 30 muzzleloader or something like
There's
that. It
rifle
just,
groups.
it showed it like,
It's
you know,
it's-
having
Around
120 rifle tags and 40 muzzleloader tags, and it's just kind of basically, there's only so many bucks to be killed, and the success rate as a 3-year average, and so it's just basically sprinkling in amongst the weapon groups
Okay.
instead of messing around with having a low demand and then having super low success, or and it just it kind of on the archery and the muzzleloader, it kind of just went all over the place all the time. Some of them were pretty standard. Then, you know, Persian County and some of these other, Kyle, you know, he would increase a little bit of demand artificially just to have a few extra muzzleloader tags in there and things like that. Another biologist did that accordingly too. A lot of it had to deal with reduced amounts of archery tags because if the success rate was like 2 to 3%,
Right.
a unit like 035 would generate, who knows, 100 and something archery tags. So, so they've eliminated some hunts this year, of course, on some of the sheep hunts. They eliminated some antelope doe hunts this year. And then they have a few different things with the junior hunts and some select units where they're gonna separate the junior hunts to a archery, muzzleloader, and a rifle. And try it in some of those other units that had a higher kind of buck ratio units. And then the rest will be pretty standard where they can hunt all 3 weapon classes, but.
How is that gonna be impacted by all the tag deferrals this year?
On the junior hunt or
No,
which
just
one?
on the fixed,
Um,
because I understand it's a substantial number
Of
of
what?
deferrals this year.
of how
Well,
many?
they were deferred last year,
referrals?
going to this year.
I'm not sure on how many, what that number is of any sort as far as referring to the next year. It's just gonna be. I can't
'Cause I
remember.
understand-
I don't think it, I thought it doesn't take away from this year's quota, but I'm not,
That's what I'm not sure, that's
Positive
what I'm
on
curious,
that.
because if it does, you're gonna have some areas where
yeah.
you're expecting 5 elk tags, that number may be 2
Give me no doe tags anyway, it's recommended.
elk tags.
Oh, well,
Yeah,
let's get back to 24.
I'm not positive on that, if that referral goes into the next year, if it's already allotted out of the model, or how that works, because there's not a, you know, killed elk or killed deer, so.
right.
You have some other comments on 24, Jim?
I'll make a motion to approve the recommendation of Commission Regulation, amendments to Commission Regulation 24.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? I have a first and second Motion to accept Commission Policy 24. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed. Next item, draft fiscal year 2025 predation management plan.
I would like to, again, this year request that the department show what the results of this predator management plan are. Because we just continue to be asked to approve this budget, but we have no idea what their success is. We don't know. It seems like Ravens have been on for 4 years now, and it's just an ongoing large amount of money that's going to control Ravens, where I think some of that money probably should be allocated better to lion control in some areas.
Okay, I'll put that in the notes, Jason, that we're asking for a report. It would be nice to see something in the future.
It's not, at least in my opinion, it's not the amount going to control ravens, but the continual studies of distribution of ravens. Is that Project 41? I think it is. That one bothers me every year, where the actual control of ravens, I think, is probably doing some good for sage grouse, but the continual study of finding out where the ravens are in concentrations,
Yeah, Project 41. Understanding of common raven densities and space use in Nevada. It's another $240,000 being used.
I do agree with Jason that we, the counties, do not ever see a summary of any of these studies. So it's hard to really recommend with any justification whether they continue or be terminated. I don't know, we've actually made that request in writing, but we never got anywhere with it. To see some progress reports or final reports or whatever they do. They aren't provided, I don't believe, to the public. You probably can make a request. Do you get a copy?
We don't even see it as an agency.
You don't.
I mean, that,
you see-
somebody knows the data.
Do you see a copy of
Do you
any
get the
one
results
these?
of any of the things
I
done in
mean,
your area?
we can dig in and ask what was removed, but a lot of these projects go yearly, and there's some of the same projects that keep going forth, but there's no, in my interpretation, there's no like evaluation of why we continue a project, or why we should cease a
Well, I
project.
assume there's a progress report on any of these federal aid that Pat has to submit,
He does,
unless they've changed the whole federal
no,
aid program.
they're pretty general.
Well, even the ones not necessarily federal aid, like $100,000
Oh, yeah.
for coyote control. Well, how many coyotes did you take out of that area? I mean, if you come back and say I took 8 coyotes, well, it's probably not $100,000 well spent. You know, like that's what I'm curious is what's the real data that's being done for these
There's
things?
a lot of that.
There's a lot of
that expensive work,
yeah. See, and that's
but
Well, this is where I think it's important to actually have to go to the commission and request the commission
I'll do
provide
that.
the county summaries.
I
How
love
can you make an
confrontation.
educated assessment? You know, say the only one I do have heartburn on really is Project 41. It appears to me that I've seen it at least 3 or 4 years in a row, and I'd like to know.
yeah. I mean, if we've seen it 4 years in a row at $240,000, that's $1 million to watch ravens.
Deploy chicken eggs.
No, this is just monitoring. This isn't even taking them.
I think last year we.
I invited Pat Jackson to our meeting last year, and that didn't go anywhere, so.
Never mind.
I mean, I agree 100% that without any kind of result data, we're just writing a blank check for this stuff, and that it just doesn't sit well with me, so.
I believe last year we had this on the agenda for 4 different commission meetings where they keep putting it off. And I don't feel good about making a motion or recommendation at this early stage. You know the commission is going to be changing or modifying this plan. They do every time they meet.
Yeah,
So
I'm good with no action.
Okay. And I'll send a letter asking them if we could get some kind of, be nice to see a progress or final reports on these.
And maybe I'll get a chance to talk to Pat at the Reno meeting.
Okay. Next item, consideration possible action, Commission Regulation 514 Moose.
which is
What about the
the
big game release plan?
big game release plan.
Oh, yeah.
I just have moose is the only thing that's on this
For
agenda.
item
So,
C,
Yeah, 8C.
oh, I missed it. Sorry, guys.
okay.
I got in the wrong spot. Wrong notes. Possible action, biennial big game release plan for fiscal year 2024, 2025. Thanks for the correction.
They're reintroducing sheep in the Cortez.
It's,
Yeah, unit 141, 20 to 25 sheep.
anyway, historically there.
Augmentation, I'm guessing, is they're just adding more sheep, yes?
Well, that's a reintroduction where the California Bighorns augmentation says. And the Stillwater's is augmentation.
They're just adding
Jason,
sheep to your range?
You want to give a report on,
I don't think the Cortez is I don't think anything's approved on the Cortez. He must have just put it on there, but, I mean, it was talked about years ago and stuff. As far as the Stillwaters and that, just, I'm trying to bolster the herd after the die-off and that, and we need to, keep moving sheep around to keep our sheep alive. And so we need numbers to keep them going with the constant lion pressure that we have in a lot of the mountain ranges east of Fallon here.
is that die-off in the Stillwater's recent, the last year?
Stillwater die-off's been it's been like 3 years now, I think, or it's 2 years now.
It wasn't that extensive, was it?
Pretty cool.
You sure
It was,
kept the quotas high.
it's extensive enough, it's extensive enough to add additional sheep in there to, the issue that I had when we took, 60 to 70 sheep and gave them to Utah, when I was feeling pretty good about the population. At the same time, that disease was coming from the south end and working its way up north. But the ones we gave to Utah were not infected or anything. And so that combination of reducing some of those numbers, plus the die-off moving through there, plus the amount of lions that are in the Stillwaters, we're just gonna have to move sheep around like we used to if we want to keep sheep.
You haven't actually cut the quotas much, have you? I don't
They're
remember.
gonna be cut.
I know, but up to now.
I thought they
No,
were.
they were cut last year.
Really?
They were cut last year. But
Do you guys think, do you think you have the illness all taken care of? It's under control? It's no longer an issue?
it'll have to be evaluated prior to that release. I think we don't want active PCR positive individuals, so there'd have to be a screening on that. But I think if we move forward in the future and individuals are like ELISA positive, showing that they've had past exposure, I think we're fine with putting sheep in there and helping bolster the herd. We have healthy sheep like in the Muddies and a lot of other places that we need to move around the state to try to keep our sheep from continuing declining. We'll see if it happens or it doesn't. We've been kind of in a lull with moving sheep for the last probably 12 years.
I'll make a motion to approve agenda item 8C.
Biennial big game release plan.
Yes, that one. I'll make a motion to approve the biennial big game release plan, fiscal year 24 and 25.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? There being none, call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Motion carried. Consideration and possible action, Commission Regulation 514 Moose.
I have no problems with what is submitted there.
What do you guys think the current population of moose is? 70?
No, it's over 300, it's not read.
It's probably, it's over 100.
Over 100?
I don't know what they have as far as any kind of model because you're spread out between the Rubies, Jarbidge, Bruno, Montello. It's all included as far as the hunt, so I don't know if they even have a model developed with that broad of unit groups.
But they do have a biologist tagging and tracking them.
Yeah, there's quite a few collars out, and even when they did survey last year and that, I think they encountered 30 to 40 moose. And even using the collars and that, they couldn't even find some of the collared individuals. But
I
they're,
think they've located a few down in Rubies now,
in where?
in the Rubies.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of habitat up there.
I mean, we've had them in 051 too, bulls for a long time, different places showing up, but
I'll make a
Good.
motion to approve Commission regulation, I gotta find the number.
514.
514, as presented.
Any further discussion?
It's 512 was,
What?
I'll second.
Thank you.
I'm wrong, I'm wrong.
Oh, I'm like, crap, did I just vote on one I didn't even read?
No,
Okay.
sorry.
Call for the vote. All those in favor of approving Commission Regulation 514?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carried. Consideration and possible action, Commission General Regulation 512 Fishing Regulations.
Hello, Chris Urquhart, fish biologist. This is the second workshop going through for the regulations that were proposed and voted on back in September, I believe. And as far as I know, I spoke with some of our staff earlier as well. Nothing has changed since that reading and vote. So you guys are aware of the process for commission regulations. A lot of them, they can go through with only one reading and one vote and be passed, but these are changes to NAC. So they have to go through a workshop process, a 2-workshop process. And this is the second one of those. So if you remember, there was, and I think it's on your agenda, some motor restriction changes to things like Knott Creek Reservoir, as well as a season there. There was some status of some species that had changed also, and because those are laws that have to be changed through NAC, it's a little bit different process than like a season setting or allocation process. So that's what it is, and I want to let you guys, that's why I'm here today, is to let you guys know that nothing has changed since that happened. I believe that was August maybe, or September. Yeah. Anyway, that September is usually our normal time frame for those changes on a biennial process, and that was what that was. So, and as far as I know, we don't have any changes coming up this summer for the interim either. Some of the other regions might, but our western region, we're pretty set on the regulations now for at least the next 2 years, as far as I know. So that's kind of what that is. Unless you guys have something that you want changed since the last time we went through them. There was something that crossed your mind or came up during a workshop or something like that that you wanted to discuss further, we can do that and make those recommendations to the commission.
Any further discussion? Do I have a motion to accept General Regulation 512?
I'll make a motion.
Who made that? Did you?
That was Andrew.
Andrew? Okay.
I'll second the motion.
Any further discussion? There being none, call for the vote. All those in favor of Commission General Regulation 512 fishing regulations, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passed. Next item, consideration and possible action, Commission General Regulation 513, Executive Orders Regulation.
They got quite a few changes.
In reading through, it looks to me like nearly, in order to satisfy the governor's mandate that every agency is supposed to either drop or modify regulations. That was, what, the first few weeks he was governor, he came out with that. This is in answer to that, and most of it looks like just housekeeping, very little.
This is talking about closing sheep hunting in Area 16.
No. You're,
Isn't that where we're at? Did I jump ahead?
Yeah, 513,
I don't.
I thought we were on,
executive order regulations.
We're on
I thought we voted on that.
General
on 512.
Regulation 513, Executive Order Regulations.
yeah.
That's my bad, guys.
Okay. So I'll make a motion to approve the department's recommendations. Say it's, a lot of it's just verbiage.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? There being none, I call for the vote. All those in favor of Commission General Regulation 513, Executive Order Regulations, say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion passed. Okay. Looks like G is a repeat of number D, is that right?
Is it?
It is.
Exact?
That's the one you were saying, right? Yeah. Yeah, it's just a double up.
Next item is consideration and possible action, Commission Regulation 2304, Amendment 2 for the 2023-2024 and the 2024-2025 big game seasons.
Is your area impacted here, Jason? By these changes?
No, the only thing I had was a 202 where we had an overlap with archery and the rifle season. So we changed that up a little bit. I mean, they're impacted. They're impacted from past disease events plus lions, but that'll be adjusted in the quotas.
It looks like there's quite a few units having die-offs or disease events or,
Yeah, area 16, 213, or maybe 213 's still on there, but 212, 252, Stonewall had been going downhill for the last 12 years.
do you guys know or have an idea of what's causing that?
Which one?
The 252.
252 is disease event related and lion mortality related. And then having, as far as my opinion, having just too low of a population to not be able to sustain it. A lot of different springs. There's some springs that are choked in there, like Vidovich and some of that, and they were pretty good magnets for a lot of increased lion mortality on places because it's just thicker trees and the NTTR strains out there, and it come in and out of that Stonewall Mountain, but you have to maintain, a pretty decent sized population of sheep to withstand disease and lions. And so when you keep, like any of these herds, if you keep trickling down, even with high lamb recruitment, if you have decent lion mortality, it's hard to get over that hump. 212 was a combination of the same disease that hit around here, what we call the Fairview strain that went from 205 into 213 into 212. Those sheep might have been more naive to disease, but then there was all these MOVs have different strain types. We don't. Sometimes we say, they're worse than others, but it's hard to tell what's worse in relation to like environmental conditions. Some places up north we have more perennial water, more green grass, better nutrition, and so it's you're just kind of guessing on a lot of it with different strain types. But like in 212 and 213, it was always the White Mountain strain out of the White Mountains, which still allowed for lamb recruitment and things. And then the Fairview strain showed up there, same stuff that affected all these herds around here. And then we also tested positive for like the Mojave strain, which is even farther south, where it was in the Spring Mountains, Last Chance Range and stuff. So there's 3 different strain types circulating in 212. And then, when you do testing, you're basically just testing for the one that's most prevalent, so whatever shows up. But all 3 of those were found in 212. And so I think they did 2 surveys in there, and I think the highest number that they got this year was about 30-something sheep. 35 sheep. So that season's definitely closed.
Is that similar to what's going on in 161?
161 had a same thing, had an MOV outbreak. You had, just like any of them, like 212, you look at 212 and you're looking at that west side of that range. It seems like anytime you have these sheep populations that are really, congregated together, they're spread up on that, but it's easy for them to kind of interchange. And I think there is it's nice that you get the disease, I guess, to go through quickly, but it doesn't give you any time for individuals to die and not kind of spread it and move it around too. So when you have these populations that are like that, and just like up on Area 16 on top, everything's so close knit that when something hits, it can hit them really, wipe them out pretty good. Versus maybe like the still waters where, you go from the still waters all the way up on the East Range and you're looking at 110 miles. The disease is traveling there, but it just takes its time to eventually affect it. And so maybe if you have individuals that stay and get sick and don't move, it might help it where more individuals are able to survive, but it's hard to say.
Any further comments or questions?
One, to do with antlerless mule deer, they're eliminating all the, any weapon hunts up in Oakland County. I wonder, people with preference points, 3 and 4 and 5 preference points, since there's not a hunt, and there may not be for several years, what the department's gonna do. I know. you don't
They'll
know.
do just like they did with the non-resident goat, their
Huh?
point. I would assume they're gonna do like when we had the non-resident goat or some of the Rockies and that, where they basically just freeze their points indefinitely.
I mean, there is a regulation, if you miss 2 years, you lose your bonus point.
That's changed, so as long as as far as I know, as long as you buy a license, your points are, so if you don't buy a license, you can lose your points. But if you buy a license every year, your points stay,
I'm not aware of that.
If you don't apply,
yeah.
I don't remember seeing that change.
That's what Kyle was telling me, because he hadn't applied for wild turkeys for like 6 years, and he had 11 points.
I think we better check on that one. I don't,
His points stayed 11 points, and he had never even put in for turkeys for like 6 years. And it was his understanding that as long as you're buying a hunting license every year, you don't have to apply.
well, somewhere along the line, they must have changed that regulation then.
It used to be, I think, but I think if Kyle's correct, if you buy a hunting license, your points stay. With or without putting for those individual species.
Yeah. I have no problem with any of these recommended season date changes.
Jim, would you like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? There being none, call for the vote. All those in favor of Commission Regulation 223-4, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed. Next item, consideration and possible action, Commission Regulation 23-10 for the 2024 Heritage Tag Seasons and Quotas.
I'll make a motion to approve Commission Regulation 24-05.
I'll second.
23-10, you mean, Jim?
Pardon me?
It's Commission Regulation 23-10, not 5.
24.
23-10.
Am I doing? I see 2405.
Oh, you're
Commission
down.
Regulation
You're-
2405.
That's
Yeah.
2025.
Huh?
That's 2025. That's 2025 season. It's up.
It's a heritage
Yeah,
tag
there-
species.
There's another one above it.
Yeah, it's
Scroll
not an
down.
I.
Keep scrolling up. Keep
Yeah,
going.
Oh,
one's
green
I.
tag.
Nope, it's
Okay.
above that. Keep going. Up. It's up above that K. Nope. Yeah, there you go. Slide that up, and it's J. Or no, I'm sorry. It's I.
Okay,
Keep going up.
24-2. It's a big game tag.
Nope. Keep going up. Up one more.
Boy, it jumped on me.
It did. So I, right there. That's the one.
Gotcha. My motion still stands.
Second?
Reboot required to complete Windows update.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? There not being any, call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passed. Consideration of possible action, Commission Regulation 24-01, 2024 big game application deadline.
It's a spring turkey hunt. I'll make a motion to approve. Commission
Second.
Regulation 2401.
Second?
Second.
Any further discussion? There being none, call for the vote. All those in favor, Commission Regulation 2401, 2024 big game application deadlines, say aye.
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 See.
Opposed? Motion passed. Consideration and possible action, Commission Regulation 24-2, 2024 big game tag application eligibility and tag limits.
I'll make a motion to approve Commission Regulation 24-02.
Second.
Any further discussion? There being none, call for the vote. All those in favor of Commission Regulation 24-2, 2024 big game tag application eligibility and tag limits, say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion passed. Next item, Commission Regulation 24-3, 2024 Dream Tag.
I believe these. Everything's pretty much the same as it always has been.
It just says clarification to the language related to closure of bighorn sheep units.
Okay.
This talks about tag holders, license guide, if applicable, must call Bighorn Sheep Harvest Information Hotline prior to hunting daily to determine if any hunt units have been closed due to harvest limit being reached.
Any discussion?
I'll make a motion to approve Commission Regulation 2403.
Second?
I'll second.
Any further discussion? There being none, call for the vote. All those in favor of Commission Regulation 24-3, 2024 Dream Tag, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passed. Next item is Commission Regulation 24-4, 2024 Partnership in Wildlife Tags.
It's same
Can we
language,
just approve like a lot of these?
Yeah, I think we did.
same language being added. They got to call daily.
Can I make a motion to approve Commission Regulation 2404, 2405, 2406 as written?
I'll second that.
So which ones are you,
04, 05, and 06.
okay. Anybody have a problem with that?
No.
Okay. Jason, you make a motion?
Yes.
I second
Okay. Okay, we have a motion to approve Commission Regulation 24-04, Commission Regulation 24-05, and 24-06. Any further discussion? There being none, call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passed. Consideration and possible action, Commission Regulation 24-7, 2024 big game, black bear season.
I'll make the motion to accept Commission Regulation 2407.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? There being none, call for the vote. Commission Regulation 24-7, 2024 black bear seasons. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passed. Next, consideration and possible action, Commission Regulation 24-8, 2024 mountain lion season and harvest limits.
Has that number ever been hit?
Not since they went to 247 and that. I mean, it was hit before when we were based on individual units and actual eastern, western, southern. It might have been hit before on the eastern side of the state, but not with the 247 as far as sport harvest.
Okay. It's a very arbitrary number, it seems like. 247. Just a very specific number. I'll make a motion to approve Regulation 24-08, mountain lion season and harvest limits.
No, second.
Any further discussion? There being none, call for the vote. Commission Regulation 24-08, 2024 mountain lion season and harvest limits. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passed. Last one, consideration of possible action, Commission Regulation 24-9, 2024-25 restricted non-resident guided mule deer seasons, quotas, and hunts boundary restrictions.
I have a question for the biologists on this one, and it's just for my information. It seems strange to me that Area 6 has a higher quota than Area 10. Because it seems like Area 10 has the highest quota in every other scenario except this one. You guys have any insight on why that is, or?
I'm not really sure in relation to that as far as the restricted guided tags. 6 might be more sought after by the guides, but I don't know how that plays into it versus guides hunting Area 10. I don't know on that.
I'll make a motion to approve Commission Regulation 2409.
Second.
Any further discussion? Being none, call for the vote on Commission Regulation 24-09, 2024-2025 restricted non-residential guided mule deer seasons, quotas, and hunt boundary restrictions. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passed. Last item, any other consideration of possible actions listed on the Nevada Board of Wildlife Commissioners revised agenda for January 26th and 27th. Anything else you'd like to discuss on that agenda? There is none. Do we have any items for further future agenda items?
Did we, I know you were waiting for me for something.
No, we never did. You're,
Can you
Yeah, the
remind me
letter-
what you were waiting
The
for
letter to
me?
the other cabs.
we're supposed to clean up
That's
the
right.
letter.
Okay. Perfect.
Yeah,
I completely forgot. And I forget every time until I
I'll remind you
pull up to
then.
the door.
I just hadn't been bugging you, so
Okay,
I'll send
okay.
you an email.
Thank you.
And then I just wanted to point out to you guys that our next meeting is March 6th, so if you want to make sure and get that on your calendar.
I can do that right now.
Thank you, Pam. Any public comment? Chris?
So we're trying to get the word out regarding our fishery at Hinkson Slough. The opener for the Mason Valley Wildlife Management Area is the second Saturday in February. And we had some issues that began with the flooding that happened out there last year. It brought some extra stuff from the nearby dairies and ranches into some of those ponds, just flooded them out. And we had some fish kill related to some of the constituents that were in the waters that came in there. It also did a lot of damage to some of the roads and the structures on a lot of those ponds in Mason Valley. We've been replacing those structures and fixing roads and, putting in new culverts to fix a lot of that problem. One thing we were not able to get done in time was to fix the outlet structure at Hinkson. It was also rusting and very old anyway. So we drained that particular pond down as low as we could over the fall this year. And we were hoping to have it drained so we could get our equipment in there and fix that outlet structure and refill it before the opener in a couple weeks from now. That didn't happen. There's some leaking outlet structures on other ponds that are flowing into Hinkson, so it hasn't dried out enough for them to get the equipment in and fix that structure yet. So we're still working on a solution to fix the structures that are leaking, that are causing too much water to remain in that pond for us to fix that. So, long story short, Hinkson will be drained for the opener. However, we are going to be increasing our stocking effort over the next couple weeks for North Pond and Fort Churchill Cooling Pond, which are nearby. And so our angler education folks usually do some kind of event, hand out fishing poles to kids and stuff like that. They're going to do it over at the Cooling Pond this year instead of Hinkson. So we're trying to get the word out about that because there's a lot of people that show up for that opener. It's a pretty popular event. And unfortunately, we don't have a fishery at that particular pond. I'm meeting with the hatchery and management area guys tomorrow afternoon to see if there's a way we can either adjust the water management in the out ponds at the hatchery, which feed Coonsley, which is the one that's leaking into Hinkson, or if we need to just try to fix that structure that's leaking so that it doesn't leak anymore. We've tried to put some tarps and different things on it that it hasn't worked, but we might need to put like a coffer dam around it or something like that to dry out that pond. But that's a public comment that I wanted you guys to hear. If there's any other specific fisheries that you guys want to know about, let me know. We put in order for our walleye fry for Lahontan again this week. So we'll be getting another 1 million little walleye fry for that spot. Things should be better than last year.
I was gonna ask, what do you think the forecast is for Lahontan for this?
Better than last year. However, we didn't get a real good spawn in Lahontan last year in spite of all the water that we had because of the emergency management of the reservoir in the spring, like March and April. If you remember, TCID dumped it real fast, real quick in anticipation of all that runoff that we eventually did get. But that's also right when a lot of those fish species were trying to spawn. And so they spawn mostly in the shallow areas that are around there, and when they dropped it, a lot of that stuff went dry. So I don't anticipate that we actually had a lot of reproduction in Lawton this last year, but we still have fairly good numbers of fish, because it didn't go, previous to that, it didn't go down to the 4,000 acre feet. It stayed up around like 8. And around that level, we don't see a lot of die-off of the species. So this last year, through our commercial operator and through some of our own netting operations, we were able to at least verify that a lot of those, most of the species are represented in the lake. Some are higher numbers than others. We haven't seen the white bass, which everybody loves, bounce back quite yet, but next year might, if we maintain these water levels and they don't drop it real fast like they did last year. The white bass and crappie should benefit from that, and we should see higher population numbers of those. We're looking at doing some experimental stuff at our hatchery with our wipers, which you guys might be interested in, because there's 2 or 3 spots in the state that we even stock those things, and they're becoming almost cost prohibitive for us to just buy and stock. They're very expensive to get at a catchable size. They get fairly reasonable to buy if you can get them, smaller, 2-inch size. So we're going to plumb in an extra tank at our hatchery at Mason Valley and try to buy the smaller ones and see if we can grow them out ourselves bigger before we stock them. Hopefully to save money.
Those are all southern Nevada?
No, Lahontan,
Or
Rye
Lahontan.
Patch, we used to put them in Wild Horse.
South Fork.
I don't know, South Fork. I don't know if we're gonna put them into Chimney again. We've been kind of experimenting with putting them in there as well. Not seeing a lot of return, and for the cost of them, if we don't see the return, we're not gonna continue to invest in that. So, the ones that we're trying to raise at Mason Valley will probably go to Rye Patch this first round. Just because I still wanna stock the bigger ones in Lahontan if we can get them. So we'll see if that program works, it'll save us money, and we might be able to even get more fish for a cheaper price. And
Do they not spawn in Lahontan?
no,
They're all
they're a
stock?
hybrid. They're a sterile hybrid.
Sterile.
Yeah. So, which helps us in our management because we know how many we put in there, and so we can control their populations pretty strictly just by stocking, straight up. So. Which is also why we have that special regulation in place, because they are an expense and they do have the trophy potential, so we have that size limit and harvest restriction for that particular fish.
Chris, in regards to public notification to do with Mason Valley and the cooling ponds, I haven't seen anything on the department website.
No, so,
And also on Fish in Nevada, that Facebook. Just this week, I've seen several questions on how the roads were, people anticipating the opening.
yes. And
So
that-
if
that was a-
somebody had that information, they might well put it on there.
it will be
Okay.
Friday. So our social media and our public outlet people that do those things in Reno wanted to wait until after tomorrow, when I meet with the management guys out there, the hatchery and the management area guys, to have an idea of when we might be able to have it stocked. Because inevitably, if we tell people it's dry, we're not gonna have any fish, the first question they're gonna ask is, well, when is there gonna be fish there? We don't know right now. We don't know how difficult or what the process is going to entail to actually get that thing drained down enough to be able to fix the structure and get it refilled. So I talked with Ashley, our is that PIO, they call him, Public Information Officer, just a couple hours ago when I was leaving Reno. And she said that she will be ready for Friday after, so my meeting is tomorrow afternoon, so it won't be tomorrow, but good point. And yes, I've been trying to get the word out as much as I can. I've talked to the fishing clubs that typically go out there and let them know to spread the word. And I've received lots and lots of phone calls from people that have heard what's going on and went out there to look and saw it was dry. So, yeah, but you are correct. We need to get that information out prior to the opener, and it will be soon. So hopefully, let me know if you don't see that information from our department show up on those things. I can hit them up to try to get it out a different way. But I'm not a huge social media expert. I got Facebook, that's the only thing I know how to work.
Is Truckee Canal dry again this year?
It will be until they finish the concrete project.
I didn't know if it was they're gonna run water or not.
Do they have an anticipated finish date on that yet?
Peggy probably knows.
I don't know, I haven't heard, but they were supposed to be done. So there was an irrigation season
For
in
this year?
Fernley this year. It was supposed to be
yeah.
done.
Oh, yeah, it's,
No, I was just wondering.
some cosmetic work.
No,
I was
thankfully
told it
for
was all
us, I
set.
don't think we'll need it. And if we get enough water in the Carson system, they're not even
They're
really
more
allowed to
concerned
divert.
about flooding than they are.
Yeah,
That's where-
bringing
that's-
water
that's
over
where I
from the
fish and
Truckee.
everybody else fishes though, that Truckee water coming in there.
yeah, it's a good spot, for sure.
Still 45 days till they start irrigating. It's going up 500 a day. That's
We'll
gonna
see.
put it at probably 280.
I don't know.
And my grandson went by there yesterday and he said it looks really, really good. The reservoir does, it's full.
Oh, it's up. The last time I looked, it's been a couple weeks, and it was over 200, but I
Close to
haven't looked in a
240.
couple weeks. Yeah,
Yeah,
That's
Carson's
today.
pretty full coming into it, I don't know what it is,
it's just
but
the
that's just
rain.
now.
Yeah. So this storm system we're having right now is gonna put us closer to normal. We were kinda in the red across the west for a little while in our precipitation, but this last couple weeks, I think we've been catching up a little bit, so
Yeah,
just keep
the
it.
Humboldt
we
and
just need to keep
Carson
it
are
going.
better off than the Truckee right now, snowpack wise.
Yeah. Yeah, most of these storms have been coming a little bit south, over Walker and Carson instead of north, like the Truckee, so.
My last question, how much longer do you think before we can put fish in Walker?
It'll go down
The
8 feet
models
this year.
say if we can get, I think it's 74 CFS constant flow out of, or into Walker Lake from the river, that it will stop the desiccation of the lake. I think that's the number they're at right now. For example, the TDS in Walker Lake last year was the highest that it had ever been, and it was over 27,000, which is
What's
about
TDS?
total dissolved solids parts per million. So it's 27,000 parts per million. For instance, Pyramid's under 3, and it's the salt pond, right? Well, it's Walker Lake is the salt pond. That's not the salt pond. It went from 27.3, I believe it was, to 19.8 this last year with all those floods that came in. So it dropped a good 6,000 parts per million on that. But it's got to get down to about 12 before we'll start stocking fish back in there. So we need 3 or 4 or 5 years.
12,000 or 12 whatever.
12,000 parts per million, yeah. I mean, and that's when we can start doing acclimation with some of the cutthroat. It's got to get down to around 10 where we can stock and not do the acclimation process. So we'd need like 4 of those last years that we had in a row before it would come up enough where we could start stocking to each other, which would be the first fish. And once we can establish a forage-based, population-based, and there's some bugs in there they could eat too, but we would begin with a two each other. They're more salt tolerant than the cutthroat are. And then, we could start putting our cutthroat back in there. So you tell me how long it's gonna be.
Not gonna happen.
No. It's gonna be a cold day.
Doesn't
Yeah.
sound
We
promising,
got
that's
about
for
a
sure.
third of the way there with 300% precipitation. It's probably gonna be a while. Unless we can get into a normal precipitation pattern with our rivers, and that acquisition program is able to acquire more water. Right now, they have enough for about 50 CFS, and it takes 75, I think. So they haven't purchased enough water to make that work yet. They're still working on it. But every time they make a water purchase, they end up in court over the allocation.
But they
So
haven't
it-
come up with a way to get it through the Indian reservation.
Yeah,
Have they?
they have started to deliver water to the lake through that program. 2 years, I think they've done it, but it's been small. It's been token amounts just to see that the process works, 3 CFS for a year or something like that. So now that the precedent is set and all the gears are in place to make that happen, they can do it. And there will be more water getting delivered to the lake, but they still don't have enough to make it work yet. That program is going back to Congress, I believe, and asking for some more money to try to finish out what they need. But the problem that they're running into now is that they're almost out of willing sellers. Everybody that wanted to sell their water to the program pretty much has, so that's kind of slowing down. Recently, they just got approved to start purchasing and leasing groundwater rights in Mason Valley and Smith Valleys, which they hadn't been able to do before. So they can retire groundwater wells in there. They can buy the water rights for the fields that are being irrigated from groundwater, which, we don't do in this valley, but they do a lot of it over there. And so that'll raise their water table, and then they can change those to in-stream flows, hopefully. That's the plan. And then they can have more water in the river coming down instead of pumping it out of the ground from the groundwater. So there's some things that are still going on that will help in the long run.
So it's
That's
definitely-
also
it's-
another long answer to your short question.
Yeah. So it's definitely, it's being looked at. I mean, it's not
yeah.
a lost cause. It's
Your
something
answer's
that-
no.
It's not a lost cause, but it's gonna
Spoonies
take,
and bugs.
it's gonna take a lot more work, and it's gonna take some luck. We need precipitation, because if we don't have any water coming down the system, it doesn't matter. It doesn't get there. There's still enough agriculture that runs off of those, that river in those valleys, that if we don't have at least a normal amount of flow, it still won't probably get down there. So, we're working
Okay,
on it.
any other questions or comments? Okay, I'm going to adjourn this meeting at 8:15. Pam, do we need to sign